This is H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center and West Hartford Cable Access TV. Today's date is February 10th, the day after Philadelphia beat Kansas City. It was not a very exciting game for me, but I suppose the people in Philadelphia were very happy with it. To me, Mahomes simply had a bad day. It was like he couldn't do anything right. And then I do give credit to the defensive line of Philadelphia. The multiple sacks, the way they rushed him, kept him off balance. Regardless, the one thing I miss, apparently Lady Gaga did a really terrific musical something or other at the very beginning of the program, and I miss that. I'm also happy that the National Football League changed their end zone message and got rid of that divisive DEI message. By the way, apparently children in West Hartford are being taught that there were a certain number of slaves in West Hartford before the Civil War. There were a much larger amount of soldiers from West Hartford who fought in the Civil War to free the slaves in West Hartford. Now, the topic of today's program is actually, geez, something is wrong here. Hang on. I can't see me, and I sort of like to see me to see how I'm doing. All right, we'll continue as is because it seems to be working. So the topic for today was the election and health issues. Now, one of my most vocal opponents, political opponents, I'm a registered liberal Democrat, but he's also a Democrat. He and I see things differently. Really was a big supporter of RFK Jr. before he supported Trump, before RFK Jr. supported Trump. I am a supporter of RFK Jr. and think that he will do a wonderful job. In addition, the two physicians who are to head the CDC and the NIH are absolutely masterful thinkers. Jay Bhattacharya of, I believe, Stanford or UCLA, and Marty Makary of Johns Hopkins. They are even-handed thinkers that are intuitively, I am on their side, they are on my side. There's almost no distance between what they say and what I say. So what I have said all along about the mishandling of the coronavirus epidemic, and let me be clear about that. No one under the age, first of all, no one should have been forced to get the vaccine. This is the United States. Forcing people to do things like that is completely different than wiping out polio. This was never a disease as disastrously as dangerous as polio. Now, I'm not saying that it wasn't bad. All infections can be bad. Every human life is important. But no one under the age of 65 should have been required in any fashion whatsoever to get the coronavirus vaccine. In my practice, I basically said much the same and said people were free to choose whether to do it or not do it as they saw fit. But I had over 200 patients with the coronavirus infection, and my covering physician had a larger number. And we both treated them within the first 3 days of symptoms. And that's a crucial point. If you've got something going on, and by the way, right now the flu is going on. If you've got something going on, you go to a walk-in center and you get tested and you find out whether it's the respiratory syncytial virus, the influenza, or the coronavirus infection. There's also norovirus out there that's running around and creating havoc, but I don't believe they could test for norovirus, N-O-R-O virus. So anyhow, what my coverage and I did was, if it was within the first 3 days of symptoms, let me repeat that. We treated patients with prednisone if their symptoms were 3 days or less. And why do I pick 3 days? At 3 days, the virus is on the way out. At 3 days, the coronavirus is on the way out. What is the major problem with the coronavirus infection? It's inflammation. What does prednisone do? It quells, quiets inflammation. So that's why we treated with moderately high dose prednisone for 5 to 7 days. And that caused, in my practice, only one hospital admission of 200. That is completely different from the statistics that were put out by the CDC and the FDA, not the FDA, and the NIH. By the way, the NIH behaved terribly with its attempt to suppress people who disagreed. And it is good that Francis Collins, who is a brilliant researcher and was head of the NIH, was told, sayonara, take a hike, we'll see you later. He was fired or asked to resign, as he should have been. His behavior was despicable. Persecuting Bhattacharya, and I don't know whether he went after Marty McCary of Johns Hopkins, but he definitely went after Jay Bhattacharya. So anyhow, that is my position and my support for RFK. Now, what about a number of the people who have been recommended by the Trump administration for cabinet position? My feeling is he won the election, he gets his choices. Those people who are standing in the way, I think, are silly. Speaking of silly, have any of you seen that $20 million was sent to Iraq for a Sesame Street show from the U.S. Agency for International Development, the USAID, under Democrat and complicit Republican agreement with the USAID budget, or that money was sent to Senegal to promote something about LGBTQ in a country where gays are put in jail, or that atheism was supported in Nepal. The behavior of the USAID and the behavior of this wonderful organization that saved many, many lives with its support for HIV treatment in Africa and food where there is starvation, was just, I mean, did you hear those numbers? 20 million for a Sesame Street show in Iraq, 7 million to Senegal to promote LGBTQ. Absolutely absurd. I believe if a person wants to be LGBTQ, that is fine with me if they are an adult. I am totally in support of stopping anyone under the age of 18 receiving any hormone treatment or surgery for transsexual. By the way, I think Trump is absolutely right, and this is a medical discussion, that there are two sexes. You can have as many genders as you want. There is XY and there is XX. And that is how people should be described. Now, some people, I listen to the radio and I hear them talking about transgender, this and that. What they really should say is XY as XX or XX as XY. And that is what is actually the case. The boxing match that had XYs punching XXs in the face were disgusting at the Olympics. The Olympics, obviously, this is a medical discussion. We're talking about medical decision. We're talking about treatment with hormones and so on. Okay, so going on. So what about RFK and his position on vaccines? Well, he has been a little bit radical, but I liked what Trump said about an engineer, a brilliant engineer who's working with him in the analysis of the USAID expenditures. And he said the guy made a mistake a few years ago, forgive and forget. And even though the fellow resigned, Musk I said Trump, I think. Musk rehired him as one of his engineers to go in and evaluate things. In case you didn't know, this Doge is nothing more than what Obama created with U.S. Digital Services by executive order. Barack Obama created a group called U.S. Digital Services by executive order. The current DOGE is simply renaming of that particular uh, department, division, agency, whatever you want to call it. So this is DOGE is an offspring of Barack Obama uh, creation. All right, so going back to RFK on vaccines. Yes, I think he may have said a few radical things, but on the other hand, he was he's now more reasonable. And speaking of that, although there's a large number of people who don't like Trump, he's behaving quite reasonably. He's not fascist. He's not in this for himself. Anybody who brought up the word Nazi is disgusting. Anybody who used the word Hitler or Mussolini is disgusting, in my opinion. I think bringing up those horrible, horrible things when a man who's put no one in jail, who's put no one in concentration camps, who has not gassed anyone with Zyklon B, it's just obscene. I have a number of friends who are of a different political opinion, and they use things like talking about 1930s Germany. I can't even bring myself to say the word Nazi. Uh, they talk about Trump behaving like 1930s Germany, and that is utterly absurd. Nobody's going in concentration camps. People who've not committed any crime are not being persecuted, prosecuted for any reason at all. I'm not trying to defend Trump. I'm trying to defend what is the even-handed approach that is apparent. And by the way, it is largely supported by both Democrats and Republicans. So on with Jay Bhattacharya, Marty McCary, and RFK Jr. And as I said before, I think Trump should have who he wants. And then if they don't work out, they can be fired by Trump, or some proceeding can take place, as is the usual format here in the United States, through Congress, through impeachment, through legal issues. Several of Trump's current programs have been stopped by judges. I consider those judges liberal, overly liberal activists who are not practicing what's in the law. But on the other hand, this is the way the system works. So fine, go ahead and do it, and then let it be contested, and the decision's made. So even-handed is the key word that I use on my Facebook site. Interestingly, a close friend of mine, I think, has blocked my ability to post on his site. I'm considered so unacceptable to some people. What do you say? Do you find me acceptable? You don't find me acceptable. Let the station know. Let me know. You can contact my office at 860-549-3444. That is the Preventive Medicine Center, and my practicing office as H. Robert Silverstein, MD, FACC, Fellow of the American College of Cardiology. So anyhow, uh, my usual, here are some interesting stats. The single most important contributor to overweight, guess, refined foods, sweets, pastries, pasta, rice, fish, chicken, cheese, eggs. Which of those is the most important contributor? Well, I didn't give you the answer. The answer is animal protein of any kind. The main determinant, there is a wonderful study, if you can go see it, on VUMEDI. I'm not sure if it's limited to physicians. It's by Kim Williams. Kim Williams is a very well-spoken, super nice guy uh, who presented on ViewMedi. Let's see if I have a date. I think it was, well, I'm not quickly finding it. Uh, Presented on View Medi, a discussion of essentially being vegan and health. And he showed several studies that showed that the main determinant of overweight in the United States is the increased intake of animal protein, fish, chicken, turkey, meat, cheese, and eggs. And obviously, did I say milk products? To me, milk products are the most dangerous. And I'll just tell you what I think slash know. By the way, here are a couple of statements that I made. It's not a case of don't confuse me with the facts, but the best clinical insights exceed so-called knowledge by at least one step. And then here's another one. Physicians guess at every step, and the best physicians have the best guessing rate. Yes, yours truly said those things. I'm so proud of them. I know I'm immature. I'm still waiting for my big break from Hollywood or Broadway, uh, or even Foxwoods. So anyhow, I think that milk products are the most dangerous. Now, there is a hierarchy of what I think is more dangerous than other things. Uh, I read somewhere, and therefore I put it out, that yogurt intake is related to cancer of the ovaries. Milk intake as a whole, in my best guess, the best clinical insights exceed so-called knowledge by at least one step. Milk, in my best guess, is related to the development of bunions, ovarian cysts, uterine and ovarian cancer, fibroids, polycystic disease of the ovaries, PCOS, breast cysts, breast cancer, upper respiratory infections, lower respiratory infections. And what is the mechanism? I can't tell you the mechanism for all of those things, but it's been said, so to speak, for forever, that milk thickens mucus. And the entire body is bathed in fluids that are either mucus or akin to mucus. And so if it thickens that, then drainage is not correct. And the body must have drainage. By drainage, I mean voiding, peeing, uh, bowel movements, pooping, coughing, clearing one's nose, blowing one's nose. And if you slow that down, then whatever bacteria, bad bacteria are there, get a chance to burrow into the tissues. All right. Now, I've talked about this next subject, which is part of the same subject. It's called the microbiome. There is on our skin and in our mouth and in our nose and in the prostate and in the vagina bacteria and viruses and other creatures that live there normally. We live in balance with these creatures. The most important part of the microbiome, I'm not sure that's true, but a major area of importance is the intestines. And excuse me. And so what bugs are in our intestines are determined by what food comes down, because bugs live on particular need certain kinds of foods in order to survive. So if we put the wrong food in, then we get the wrong bugs in our intestine. We put the right food in, then the wrong bugs can't survive. And by the way, I think everybody should have a little bit of sauerkraut. Almost everybody. I can't think of an exception, but I'm not going to say everybody. Should have like a forkful, a standard little hump of a forkful, a little more than a teaspoonful of sauerkraut every day. Now you can put it on your salad. And what I do is I put it in my mouth, lean over the sink, press the fluid out, and then chew up my sauerkraut. And those sauerkraut, live sauerkraut, not canned sauerkraut. I go to Whole Foods, which, by the way, Big Y. I don't know about Stop and Shop. I don't get my sauerkraut at Trader Joe's because it's not marked organic. And I want it to be organic, and I don't want it to be in plastic jars. I want it to be in glass jars. So that's Whole Foods. Uh, and I the choices are actually a little bit better at the Raymond Road Whole Foods compared to the 345 North Main Street Whole Foods, Bishop's Corner. And I get three different kinds, and I rotate one day, the next one the next day, the next one the next day, and then start over and keep rotating. Um, you don't have to do it the way I do it. In addition, making soup. I made soup yesterday and learned a lot. I went to Whole Foods. No, I went to Trader Joe's, and they have these containers of already cut up vegetables. So unfortunately, they were not organic and they were in plastic containers, but I bought them anyway. And so one was onions and one was mixed carrots, celery, and onions. And then I threw those into a pot. I threw some baby carrots that were already in a package. By the way, before I threw them in the pot, I threw them in a strainer and then sprayed them with my veggie spray to get whatever off of them. There's an ad on TV that I think is interesting, and it shows water running over a head of broccoli, and then it sprays on, uh, then the spray is put on the broccoli, and the water runs through the broccoli. It is true that almost everything is covered with some kind of, I'll call it plastic. I don't know what it is, but it's certainly not good for us. And there's clear evidence that we have too many plastics, microplastics throughout our body, virtually everywhere, even in our brain and our salivary gland, in kids, and so on. So back to the microbiome. You have the right food coming down, the right bacteria, viruses, fungi, yeast live in our intestine. You have the wrong food coming down, animal protein, processed foods, standard wheat pasta and breads. Then you get the wrong microbiome. Now, the intestines are not a solid wall. They are porous and things leak through them. So the good bacteria send good things through, and the bad bacteria send bad things through. And then the good things don't anger the immune system, but the bad things anger the immune system. So what we eat determines what goes through the intestinal wall. And if it's bad things, it angers the immune system. And it is stated that we end up with diseases like multiple sclerosis or rheumatoid arthritis. And so, and even those kinds of things activate monocytes. Monocytes are the cells in our blood that go around and defend us. That's a good way to look at it. They are defensive. Protective would be another word. They gobble up particles. They secrete what are called cytokines to attack bad particles. They create reactive oxygen species, ROS, that attack bad things, and so on. So you want those activated when they should be, but not activated when they shouldn't be. And the wrong bacteria send these chemicals into the blood that activates those monocytes to the point where they should not be activated. That's the key point. They get turned on when they should be turned on, and that creates havoc within the human body because then they end up attacking like knee joints, rheumatoid arthritis, and so on. Now, animal protein also raises the uric acid. So most people who have gout are any of three possibilities. Number one, overweight. Number two, eating too much animal protein for their metabolism. Number three are on diuretics. Number four, I said three, but now there are four, dehydrated. Those are the things primarily that raise the uric acid, which is a component of protein metabolism. Well, let's see where we are. Oh, my goodness, we're almost done. So if you have any questions about this, you may contact my office at the Preventive Medicine Center, 860-549-3444. See, I set my little alarm. And if you have any questions, suggestions, by the way, I got a haircut. I don't know if I had a haircut the last time. I certainly needed it. And that's it. So I am H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center in West Hartford Cable Access TV. Enjoy the better weather, and God bless you all.